Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 30 something podcast with me, Sasha, and my dear baby sister.
Tanya, that's me.
And today, as we were last episode, we are joined by a good friend from university. Shall I say his name, or do you want to say his name? Do you want to say your name?
I'll say my name. Polished.
We did a whole spiel about who you are and blah 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 in the last episode, so watch that if you're interested. But Graham's been a friend of ours since university for 13 years ago, and we've remained good friends. And today we're continuing the conversation about I still haven't figured out the perfect way to put this, but about masculinity, the role of men, the experience of men trying to fit into modern day society. Let's say
I
that.
think
But we
more
touch
the
on
role of a man trying to not fit in to
yes,
the traditional
yeah,
masculine role.
great. Let's leave it there. So let's jump right in. I want to ask you about like what your relationship is like now with vulnerability, emotional intimacy in relationships and with yourself.
Good
Big question.
Good
That's
question.
big question.
So, I think it's in a much healthier place than it's probably ever been, which is really nice. I still find myself there are just certain ways in which you think you're being open and honest and vulnerable, but there's always little sneaky ways that my personal like conditioning comes back round, and then it's like, oh wait, okay, yeah, I'm not quite being honest with how I feel here, or I'm just pushing things down like ever so slightly. So I think that does come up, still in relationships for sure. So being polyamorous and attempting to juggle multiple romantic relationships at the same time is it definitely forced my hand in learning sort of quite radical vulnerability and radically saying what you need or want from a
Yeah.
situation, because I found there was so much resistance to this when I first started doing it, and it was terrifying, and it was touching on loads of insecurities and core beliefs that I had about myself that were really negative. And through the experience of just having to face my fears and being in therapy at the same time, it kind of like turbocharged my it actually being exploring polyamory while being in therapy. Like, it properly turbocharged me finding out my negative core beliefs about myself.
Hmm.
Massively. It was just like they were there. They were on show because, like, I was in situations where other partners were going on dates where they were going on with men felt more threatening. Why was that? Because there was the danger element. I was scared for them getting hurt. Like, I was scared for them being assaulted. There was all this stuff coming up, right? Like, when my
That's
other
interesting. That's
partners.
not where I thought you'd go with that.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. I'm just rolling with it.
Okay. Are there
But then
particular
sorry, go
are
on.
there particular core beliefs that you'd be open to sharing an example of?
Yeah.
And like how you've learned to
Like,
combat that?
it would also be the jealousy for me if a partner was dating another person would be like the jealousy was always linked to this feeling of like, oh my god, I'm unlovable and they're gonna leave me, right? That would be like the go-to sort of like, everyone leaves me because I'm unlovable,
Classic.
and then classic, right? A classic negative
Is
core
this the
belief.
part where we say you're lovable, Graham?
You're
You
so lovable.
really,
I did
really
say
don't
that
have
up
to.
You're
top.
really
I said that up
lovable.
top.
Did you? Did you say that I'm lovable up top? Like,
Yeah,
to
I
open.
did. I was like, oh, you had some toxic traits, but super
Oh, but
lovable.
lovable. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for soothing
That's
that part of my wounded self. Yeah. yeah, I don't know. And
And
then like,
did you feel more threatened, more unlovable in comparison if they were going on dates with men versus going on dates with
yeah,
women?
yeah, definitely. I had to go through that whole process of comparison. It definitely triggered some stuff in me around like, yeah, my own views on masculinity for sure. It brought them into like, oh wow, do I think I'm good enough? Do I think I'm but then interestingly, when partners are dating other women, it's like there's like a oh my god, like they it brings on fears actually sometimes that are worse the other way. Because it's like in this very gendered sense, it's like, oh my god, women can offer things that I absolutely could never. Like at least with men, there's like something to aim for, right? Which there's absolutely fucking not, right? But like yeah, it's such an interesting headspace to work with all these fears, all these insecurities, and
So
yeah,
what
you
does
really
combating that fear of being unlovable look like in practice with your partners?
oh, that's a good question. Sometimes, but not overdoing this. That's a big important thing I'd say. Sometimes just reassurance is enough. Sometimes some reassurance and a hug is like
Like
enough, right?
asking for it.
Like yeah, me asking for it, yeah, or sometimes them asking if I need it, because it's one of those things where like I'm very aware of like I don't want to be a partner that's constantly asking for reassurance because I know what that can feed into, right? I can know what that sort of validation consistently over time would mean that I'm just constantly seeking a partner's approval for validation, and um, I know personally as well that I don't need that. That if I can sit with some negative feelings for long enough, that eventually they do tend to go away. Now I'm quite fortunate in that sense that it all passes through, it all changes. So conversations with the partners around polyamory, around the difficulties around dating, for me, like gratitude stuff is always there as part of my like just general, what would I call it, well-being practice, I guess, and
You mean like
also
just reflecting on what you're grateful for in your life, or is it like
yeah,
relationship
yeah, yeah.
specific? Okay.
I'm definitely someone that if I just top up all the positive things in my life, and I also do this thing called a loving kindness meditation, which is sometimes called the metta bhavana. Like I practice that a lot. Yeah, I'm definitely someone that if I can top that stuff up, it just makes me more resilient to the difficult feelings that sometimes come up. Yeah. And I'm also very lucky that I've now been exposed to this sort of stuff for when did I first become polyamorous? Like 6 years ago, I first ventured into this. And I think through that 6 years of exposure to it now, I just don't tend to feel much difficulty around. Well, yeah, I'd say over the last like year or two, I felt almost no difficulty or no strong difficulty around partners dating
Mm,
other people at all, which is quite wild.
that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, just
Yeah,
the
like, and I'm
exposure
sure it's
to it.
very natural for the negative feelings to possibly always be there every once in a while, but I suppose
Yeah,
like you train your attitude towards it to be different.
yeah.
And that is like learning to be vulnerable with yourself. Is like, I feel jealous, and that's okay. It's not
Hmm.
like, I feel jealous. What am I going to do?
Yeah,
Everything is
push
collapsing
it
all around
down.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And how would you say your view of women or your attitude of women has changed over the years?
I'm no longer scared of them, which is nice. Yeah, I think
When
it's
were you
funny.
scared of them?
Like, I honestly, like, there was a big, I was just fucking anxious, like, around women. Yeah, it's right. This goes back actually to some earlier points around like early conditioning, right? So, as a wee guy, it's just like the wee guys that have lots of pals that are girls, they're gay, right? Like flat out, like that was just like the thing, right? So genuinely for me, there was a bit of fear around developing friendships with women
Making you
because it's
gay?
like that's what all the gay boys did, and you did not want to be gay, right? Um, and so that definitely shaped my life a wee bit. Where I did have pals that were girls growing up, but whenever it would get too close or too like friendly, like I would immediately start like withdrawing a bit because I'd get super anxious. I'd be like, well, if we're not gonna like end up going out, Like, and this is, I'm talking like I'm super young at this point. Because at that point, it's like, well, if you're not going to end up going out, then you just have pals that are girls. Then what does that make you? Boom, back to being gay again. And so I was
That's
also,
crazy. I've never thought about it that way.
right.
I've never imagined men to have that concern when you're getting too close as a friend with a girl.
Yeah. So then when I'm fast forward to like being in teenage years and like, hormones flying about and it's like I also had no clue how to like ask a woman out or how to make a move at all. Like like petrified of it. I would go as far as to say that. So, when you're balancing this thing of like, I'm too scared to ask women out. I don't want to get too close to women as friends because then I'll be seen as gay, kind of leaves you in a bit of a shit show situation where, you don't have that many close women in your life of same age, of the same peer group. And I was someone that friendship group wise, I was a bit of an in-betweener at school. So there was also that element of things going on. So I think like over time, thankfully, that anxiety's lessened, and I have lots of pals that are women, and that's really beautiful and lovely. Um, and yeah, I'd say
Do
that
you,
was.
do you see their value differently as
Do I see their
you
value?
learn to
I
value
don't. Well,
yourself?
that's the thing. I don't think I saw their value because I didn't let myself get close enough when I was younger to
Right.
see the value and feel it. But as soon as I did, as soon as I started feeling that value and getting those closer connections, I was just like, okay, there's no going back now. Like this is, this is great. This is good for me and my health, my well being. And it's just really fucking nice to have. Like with anyone, I don't think anyone ever diversifies their friend group in any way and thinks this feels shit, this feels weird. Like it always feels nicer, whatever direction that diversification is going in. And we've been obviously, I'm aware we've been very gender binary in this podcast
Sure.
as well, right? Um, but yeah, I think that's always going to have a positive impact on your life. So yeah,
And what do you think you get from female friendships that you don't with male friendships, and vice versa? And that's
I think
also a
I
question for you, Sa, if you have an
yeah
opinion
yeah
on that.
yeah. There's just less. There's no hiding like the emotional stuff, right? There's just with my boy pals. There's like you could hang out with them for a full day and have things going on, and it can be avoided, right? It can just be avoided. That's my experience with my pals, right? Um, so not all of them, but sometimes, and not all of them all of the time as well, right? But yeah, it just can't be avoided. Whereas, yeah, like I'm thinking of like Ash, who I worked with in my last job. Like, you know, if I came in and I was having a bad day, she immediately knew. She'd immediately ask, and if I didn't want to talk about it, she'd be like, "No, okay," But then, like, it was being talked about that day, at some
It's
point.
being acknowledged, even if
It
it
was
wasn't
being
talked about.
acknowledged. It was being held so fucking well. Like that's my personal experience of this very binary landscape where we're painting is yeah, emotional difficulties are held so well, um, and there's no fear about that, and there's no judgment, and there's no I can feel the tension sometimes when you're bringing up emotional difficult stuff around my pals that are men. Some of them, and not all the time. But let's move the conversation on because I don't know how to sit with uncomfortable feelings. Um, so yeah, I'd say that's a big difference that I find.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you
interesting.
said vice versa as well. So what do
Yeah.
male friendships give me? Female friendships don't. There's definitely being able to talk, like we said about the conditioning stuff, the stuff that you were like, I can't imagine growing up, being scared of being called gay because you got close to women. Like, being able to connect with that shared experience, you know,
Mm.
is always there. And the older I get, the more we're all able to laugh about it. And I talk about like we're in hysterics. We're just like, isn't this fucking weird that we got brought up in this way where that was normal, you know? Um yeah, so yeah, there's definitely that like peer group. Okay, yeah, we've all been through
It's just like
this.
an understanding of the code and the framework that you
The
were
bro
conditioned
code.
with. The bro code, yeah.
I think the bro code's a completely different thing, actually, isn't it? That's something awful and probably is quite like fucking
Yeah, that's something
problematic.
else.
Yeah.
How is your physical intimacy with your male friends these days?
I want more, they want less. No,
There's been a conversation.
it's a conversation. No, it's just me forcing myself upon them. Like, how do you like it? No. So that's a very dark joke. Um, no, it is a conversation sometimes, and yeah, I just like whenever I see my friends, I go in for like hugs, and I always
Sure.
and since you taught me so well, Tanya, I am.
Yeah, the lean,
Yeah, yeah.
the head,
You know,
the head
I
tilt.
just cling on to them for a wee bit longer, just to make them feel uncomfortable, just so they have something to sit with.
Yeah,
I
something
do
to
try.
feel.
I do try and like, yeah, just hold them a bit more, stand close to them.
Stand
Yeah,
Do you
close to them.
intentionally try to do that? Or
yeah,
is it just
yeah.
because
Because
you
like
want to in the moment?
you know that feeling when two magnets are pushing apart from each other, like men have like a built-in homophobia thing that we've all developed from a young age, as I've already covered repeatedly in this chat to you. And there's like a don't
Yeah.
stand too close to men because then they'll bum you. That it's like it's not it's not like it's
Yeah,
like
in
you,
Western culture, but actually
right?
it's really interesting. Like in some cultures, men hold hands. They do that thing where
Give
they
nose
kiss
kisses.
noses or whatever it is. Like, and it's totally normal, and they don't think of that. Even some very homophobic cultures do
Yeah.
that, but they don't think of it that way.
That's so interesting, right? I have like
Yeah.
held hands with friends, but it's usually in a sort of like jokey, haha, laughing context. But then I'm always that person that I'll continue holding your hand. I'll just continue it. Be like, no, this actually feels nice and comfortable. Like, this is just really lovely. But it's so funny, using the nose kissing thing there. I laughed just because I was just imagining my friends' reactions if I tried to do it with them. Out the blue, no conversation. Um, yeah, yeah. It is. It's one of those things. I think I'm always looking for ways to navigate that. But similarly to the emotional conversations I have with men in my life, I think I did sort of binary things, and I was like, well, none of them are comfy with that shit, so I won't bother having those conversations, or yeah, having those conversations and exploring that stuff. Whereas now I definitely am trying to be more active in when I see my friends, of just like exploring those things with them, because it's
Yeah,
nice. It's nice, right? Like I love having pals that I can like cuddle up with on the couch, that I can like get cozy with. But again, like most of my pals that are men, that wouldn't be them.
yeah.
You know, it so often falls on the binary to the other side, where it's my pals that are women.
How has your relationship with homophobia changed then? Like, do you still feel a little bit of that conditioning, and
Only when
how
I'm
do you?
hooking up with guys. Like genuinely, there's
You feel homophobic.
like I feel homophobic. No, I so that homophobia, it did actually. So when I first like started dating guys, I've not dated a huge amount of men in my life. I think, yeah, and it's interesting because I've thought on this because I haven't dated a guy to the point where it's been like a introduce this guy I'm dating to my friends. Introduce this guy, like I guess go through those like relationship escalator things, right? Nothing's gone that far. But I have thought about like how my own internalized homophobia will come out and play on that, and how it will feel vulnerable. It will feel scary. And I say that because like it might happen at some point in my life, and yeah, I kind of want to be prepared for for that. Um, I'm trying to
So
think.
it's a
I
work in
think
progress.
yeah, it's just work in progress because it's one of those things of like dating men. It then like, and I mean, not to like, it just gave me that first like very first hand experience of like the crap that I see women go through in my life. It's
Hmm.
like, oh my god, it's rough. Like like the horniness levels is just off the charts, right? Dating them is actually a bit mad. It's like I don't know you. I do not want to see your dick. I don't want a shirtless pic. Like this is like I'm not horny because I've not spoken to you and I have not got a clue who you are. Like, and even if you're like explicit and explain that to them, sometimes they just keep coming. They just keep going for it. They're just horny, and I'm just like, wow, okay, right. Like this is what I'm dealing with. Yeah, and
I'm sorry you have to experience that firsthand.
well, that's the thing because experiencing it is just a very different feeling. Experiencing it firsthand from secondhand, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I remember chatting to Danny, who I lived with for a little bit, going into lockdown, about this because Danny's actually quite similar to me in that like he doesn't get like grinder hookup culture has never been his thing, right? And I was explaining this to him and about just how I was finding it a bit jarring, right? And it was I was like, it's kind of like the gay community of just men that sleep explicitly with men have kind of like never had women or non-binary people or or very rarely trans people coming into their space to kind of like break down that toxic masculinity hookup culture and those
Mm.
masculine thoughts or traits around sexuality or and being sexual. And it's just such a part of that like gay men's masculine culture that feels like problematic and like it's never addressed by anyone from a different gender. So then it kind of
Interesting.
like it's almost like this like mad sphere of like really toxically masculine hookup culture. Um, like almost even
Interesting.
more
It's
so
just
than like
more
straight
toxic
dating.
masculinity, just in a
Yeah,
different
almost more
context.
so than straight dating because at least in straight dating, men occasionally
Yeah.
get a woman saying like, "What the fuck are you
Checks.
doing?
Yeah.
Like that's not okay." And even if their
Yeah, there's
reactions
a
go, "Oh,
there's
she's a,
feedback that
right," yeah, yeah, no feedback.
yeah, that
So
stops it. Yeah.
So yeah, the homophobic side of things is like now I quite often people look at me and I think they quite often have a bit of like a is he gay? Like there's a question there at least. I think just from how I present,
It's the mustache.
just it's the mustache
I'm just kidding.
and I had a pearl earring in actually the other day as well, so I think that was a real dead giveaway. But yeah, there's that sense. But then people see me with like female partners as well. So again, being bisexual, similar to being as like me talking about how this whole conversation is very gender binary, right? Like again, it's like people don't know where to place you. As soon as you fall in the middle of something, it's like, wait, what? I can't put you in box A or box B. You want a third box? Like what? Like it just really fucks with people's heads. So yeah, my attitude is very much just I just don't care. I'm just gonna be
Yeah.
myself, go through life with hopefully a lot of love and kindness and compassion, but also directness and not standing for bullshit as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
and the
I
rest
guess
can
people will focus on the framework and the language that is most helpful to them at the time in a way as well, right? It's like
people
that
around
being helpful to
gender,
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
people
that,
around
that makes
gender,
sense.
around sexuality, around any category you can think of, they need a story, don't they? A lot of
Yeah, they
people
want to
base
make
their
sense of the
lives on
world.
stories. Yeah, a lot of people don't feel they have time or don't have capacity to really listen and take things in, both for themselves and the people they're interacting with. So they just want stories. They just want. I think that's why clickbait works so well. Cool. Now I've got a story. I don't almost even need to click on this clickbait. Like it might even be the same for this video. Like toxic masculinity. Like very clickbaity title, right? And like people already have a story about like what our chat might look like.
Could we go back to, because we've been talking about like qualities or talking around qualities that maybe we associate with masculinity, but we didn't actually say what do we think, or maybe who do we see as a very positively masculine person and why?
I mean, I did want to ask you about like, have you got role models? Let me see if I know one.
It's an interesting question because, like, do I have role
You know,
models? It's
the
weird.
first person I think of is my ex, Gil. But he
Okay.
really evolved over the
Yeah.
years we were together. But like I see him now as a really
Yeah.
positively masculine guy.
Like I know loads of great people, but I think the term role models is something I kind of it's a weird one because like there's a lot of chat around that around this like masculine thing of like boys don't have good role models, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like I also think that as soon as we start giving people this title of role model, we put them on a pedestal. So then when they inevitably show their human side and fuck up in some way, especially in relation to what we quote unquote put them as a role model for. So if it's like someone like a Pedro Pascal, right, is a famous example I can
He
think
was
of.
what I was thinking of too.
If he
I
comes
think
out
he is
tomorrow, but
really
like he's done
masculine in a good
some
way.
dodgy stuff, right? If he's done something like that's really shitty in relation to former relationships, current relationships, whatever that may be, people are going to be fucking heartbroken, right? People are going to be
Yeah,
like
there are actually
distraught.
memes about that.
Yeah, and like, and I think this culture of role model takes away from just inevitably us all being human and all having flaws and all having good points and our capacity to change. So it's funny when you say role models, like I could sit here and list some incredibly great friends that are men that are just like fucking unbelievable, that have grown so much, that like I have heartfelt and honest and open conversations with, and that I can pick up the phone to when I'm in need, and they'll be there to answer. And they're all flawed, and they all have their stuff going on. And you were thinking of Pedro Pascal too, Sasha. So are there men
I
in
was
your
thinking
life?
of Pedro Pascal. If I had to choose like a celebrity,
Yeah.
it would be Pedro Pascal.
Or
I
Andrew
think
Garfield.
like when if I have to answer the yeah or Andrew Garfield. Okay, so but you could argue it's so difficult. You could argue that it's because those two men show qualities that are traditionally unmasculine, and those qualities make them more attractive to us as women, and therefore to us that's masculine. Like I think that I don't know which came first, like what's attracted to us or what we see as masculine. But when I think of, oh, I have to think of somebody who's masculine, I think of who's the most attractive person I know. So then the
I
qualities
think
that I
there's
think of
definitely
as masculine, I think are just the things that I want in a partner.
yeah. I think there's an evolutionary element, not like a biological evolution, but like the role of women has expanded so much in modern day for some women, not all. And I think then naturally the role that women would like a man to fit into in their lives has evolved too. And so like what you look for in a man is a bit different. Like you might, generally speaking, you might be looking for a man that has better emotional intelligence or better like homemaking capabilities or like things that help balance out you in a more modern role as a woman, you know? So I think like those traits can be seen as less traditionally masculine, but like in this day and age, women are like, yeah, but that's the masculine that I want. That's a super
Yeah.
simplistic way of looking at it, but I think there is a trend going on here with the change of women's roles and like, okay, how do men fit into that?
Well, yeah, exactly. And then do we define that then as as the new masculine because it's more attractive to us, or is that unmasculine but attractive to us?
I think naturally the way the use of language evolves based on the context in which they're used in will suggest that it will start being called masculine. It'll start to be called masculine, some of those traits. Or maybe we'll just stop thinking about feminine and masculine as much, like you say,
I,
Graham. Like maybe it's just going to go
I'd
out the
love to
window.
say the royal we are getting there as a society, but yeah, it feels like a very very long way off. Considering how much cultural baggage trans people are, well, just how much shit trans people are experiencing right now. I think gender is still,
Yeah,
yeah,
sometimes
it's.
unhelpful.
I think the backlash from all the anti-trans rhetoric and the awful behavior from people in power right now towards trans people means that like culturally the Western world will be having a tough time dealing with gender for a long time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which is it's kind of mad that thinking about that. Like I back in 2012 started learning about like the difference between sex and gender in sociology classes, and I was like mind
Yeah,
blown. This is cool. This is frees everything up and just like makes life nicer and more easy when we view it through historical contexts and like yeah, and yet things are going the opposite
yeah,
way. So I think masculine and feminine is yeah, and as well with changing, like you said, changing roles. Like you know, it wasn't that long ago that like women in the UK needed to like have a husband so they could take out a credit card. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
so yeah, it's really still quite modern history that things have changed, and like you say, women don't have that financial dependence on men anymore. So
yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I think the speed
gender's
in
here to
which it's
stay.
all changed. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I hope it's just like a pendulum thing, you know? It's like things have changed so much in that regard that there's like a psychological backlash because like we can't mentally hold the nuance of all of
Mm.
that, or like a lot of people can't, and then there's just like this angering response as a result.
It's
But I
painful,
think like
isn't it?
as our, yeah, it's awful. But I think as our I think language is a big part of it. As our
Mhm.
language expands and evolves around this topic, people will start to get it more. I think when
Mm.
you don't have the words, it's really hard to understand what's happening and to have a framework to like really consider reality, you know.
Mm. I
So
remember
when we
I
talk
feeling.
think
about
that's
masculine,
definitely
feminine,
true. Like, I think that's definitely true in general for a lot of people. But there are some people who are genuinely resistant to the
sure,
changes in how we see gender. I think, like, a lot of, well,
Mhm.
probably mostly men, or at least unfeminist women, have probably grown up like with such a rigid role in their mind of who they are as a woman or as a man, and when they see that other people aren't following that, they feel threatened in
yeah,
their own identity, and then they need to like try and control other people to fit into
Mm.
their boxes.
yeah.
And I think
It's
that's
like a
when
mass
it's toxic
reckoning of your own
masculinity.
identity. Yeah,
I remember feeling that like internal resistance of like it kind of feels like a rug's being pulled from under you when like you know you're told like so gender is a social construct and here's all the historical contexts where gender was played out completely differently to how we experience it now, and you're sat there going like fuck, and I think in some ways it's like there's an anger in there of like I've almost been lied to and the truth's been hidden from me, you know. I think that's reasonable, and like you say, Sasha, I think a lot of people go no, I know the truth, my truth is what I've been brought up on, and fuck anyone that says anything else. And I think it's like how we have conversations around that with people um is yeah so important. I don't have the language or the skills or the time to to deal with it, but like it's whoever because it needs, and I say that, but also I think I'm like you know I'm more than happy to talk, you know, and engage with people when they are struggling with that stuff. These things that feel very solid about what we're explicitly and implicitly taught are all of a sudden changing. Your world's effectively crumbling. Like you all of a sudden realize that things are impermanent. Like much more than you ever first realized. And that's just a really painful experience for us as humans to go through. It's why people love stories, like I said earlier. Like they love something solid to cling on to. Like I have a story about you, therefore I can cling on to that rather than experience it for myself fully, you know? Yeah.
yeah. Like categories and boxes is so important to our conservation of energy that
Mm-hmm.
having to break those apart, like literally, is tiring, and not everyone has the energy for that.
Sasha, you'd said something earlier about like I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but like something I wanted to highlight. So I've had a couple of weddings this year for childhood friends,
Mm.
um, and that's been really interesting. Being around a lot of like you know just a lot of like straight men that haven't gone to therapy, basically, both on two stag do's and
They're
the
very
two
recognizable.
very so stiff. You hug them, it's like you're hugging the Tin Man, right? It's like, and it's funny because I think in some ways something that I've and I've kind of touched on it a bit. I've not been kind of not been engaging with those sort of men as much I think
Mm.
it's like there's something about that that I think is just normal and like fine because like I have friends that are like, I don't know, you just grow apart, you know, and you have different interests. And some people go to therapy and move to Buddhist meditation retreat centers and, you know, do these sorts of things. And
And
some
become
people
polyamorous.
become polyamorous, right? I'm like a walking cliche in a lot of ways, right? It's like the split in your 30s. It's like married, kids, mortgage, polyamorous, kink parties, like, you know, like Buddhist commune life. Like, anyway.
Where am
Um,
I? Tan, which one am I?
You're proving
I
that there are
mean,
no boxes. That's what
yeah,
you're
no
doing.
boxes. Somewhere
But
outside of that scale.
I think my experience with that, and like even so, the day before Ali's wedding, and I was a groomsman at his wedding, we played
I
golf.
remember Ali.
You remember Ali? He just got
Yeah.
married. It's a really nice wedding. We'll chat about that, not on the podcast. But we played golf the day before his wedding, me and 13 other people, right? And I think just the amount of fun that was, and again, you know, just a group of lads, right? Group of lads, and the amount of fun that was, you know, and I was able to connect them, and yet we didn't necessarily have the deepest chats, right? But not everything in life has to be the deepest chats, right? It's just sometimes about having a lot of fun. And I was like, oh, I think I need to work on this, on not expecting those mates of mine to go to places that they've never gone to before, you know, and just enjoy them for the fun that those friendships and those relationships can be. And from that, it's funny because the environmental side of me is like, fuck golf, because golf courses are like awful for the environment. But then there's also part of me now that's like, I do live in Scotland, one of the only countries in the world where golf is affordable. I have a set of golf clubs, and it's a way for me to connect with my mates. So I kind of want to start playing a bit more golf just as a means of connecting with those mates. Because it's definitely something like, in some ways, I feel like I've kind of been ignoring some of my mates because I'm like, you know, doing my own thing. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to highlight that, Sasha, because you'd asked,
Yeah.
and like I think that's one of those like work on areas for me of like, because also kind of they're showing me a way of life that I'm not doing, but it's also an option for me. You know what I mean? If I ever wanted to go down that more traditional route, it's an option for me in life, and I guess that's the beautiful thing. We all have different lives. Yeah, I guess just being accepting of that is a big part of maintaining those friendships with men that
And
are
you can
just
have
not
different,
fun.
yeah, and you can have different things at different times. You don't have to be like, I identify as a blah, 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 blah kind of man, and you've got
Yeah.
to like live that out until your dying day. Like, no, you can have different chapters where, you're more drawn to certain parts of yourself that bring you to a different kind of lifestyle or different types of
Hmm.
people and whatever. And then
Hmm.
ultimately, that's a full life, isn't it?
Oh, just a second, everybody. I didn't answer that question about being friends with men versus women. Was that good? Was that a good tee up?
It'll be weird in the edit, but whatever.
Okay, well, I was thinking about my friendships and that we're talking about toxic masculinity or whatever you want to call it, and I don't think I have any male friends that have those qualities, and that makes sense, right? Men who are that way probably don't have female friends, or at least a lot of them. No, you don't agree?
I'm not sure. I think like a lot of our friends have some toxic traits. Maybe not like
Okay, well,
glaringly, but
I
sure.
guess it
Sorry.
depends how
Continue
you
your point.
define toxic
Mm.
masculinity, which we haven't. But I think all of my male friends, like, I don't actually really see a difference in my female friendships versus my male friendships, just because my male friendships are either with men who are very comfortable being friends with women because I'm a woman. And so, being that one half that is a woman, it's always going to be a friendship with a woman. Does that make sense?
Hmm. That in fact makes sense.
Graham's nodding, but your face is saying no. Like one half of the friendship is always a woman, so there's not that much difference in my experience.
Yeah. Whereas if you're a man friends with
But
a man, you might have a very distinct other experience.
I think there is a difference, yeah. Do you guys mind actually answering my question about, like, can you think of someone who you would define as masculine and what qualities do they have?
Oh,
Masculine.
Because I think it's important, because we didn't actually say at any point
yeah.
what we define as masculine.
I think the thing is here, right? Different people define masculinity so differently. For some people, Pedro Pascal is the most masculine man alive because he's
Yeah.
attractive and he's offering them all these like softer qualities. Um, but
So,
then for
what
other
qualities
people,
do you define as masculine?
that's a good question. Because in my head, I'm just thinking you've got like, the Pedro Pascals and you've got people like Andrew Tate and the Liver King on the other side of thing,
I don't
the,
know the
like
Liver
these.
King, but
Oh, you need to look him up. This
Me neither.
mad, absolute
I
mad.
don't want
Anyway,
him in my algorithm.
okay. Like
yeah,
for
don't say
some
his name.
people, yeah. Sorry, he's appearing on your algorithm now because we've said it. Um, yeah.
You
What
know,
do I define as masculine? Is honestly a really tough question because like any trait, and it goes back to kind of what I said about not viewing things through the lens of being a man, but being uh like an adult, a healthy, responsible adult. Because any traits I can think of that I would potentially put masculine to are things that I'm like, well, no, just the gendering of that trait makes no sense. Whether it be like leadership, strong communication, well, all sounds a bit businessy as well. Like none of those things. I just don't feel like any of those things are inherently masculine or feminine. They're just
Okay, so
qualities.
then could I ask you, going back to what I was saying about maybe what we see as masculine is just what we see as attractive in a man. What is attractive to you in a man?
Mm-hmm. Things like softness, thoughtfulness, being compassionate, holding eye contact, being able to hold eye contact. That would do for a little starter list. Yeah.
Interesting.
I do have an answer to your last question, Sal. And well, it's my ex-partner who I did say, but like, I don't think I have a
Oh, yeah,
very,
you did.
I don't think I have a very definitive definition of masculinity, but I think he is a really good example of like a great balance of what I see as more traditional slash like healthy, useful masculine traits and really nice, softer traits. Like, I think in his nature, he's quite resourceful
Mm.
and protective, uh, ambitious. What's this word?
Confident.
Like confident, yeah, and he can like fight for stuff and
Mm.
not be afraid to like really fight hard for stuff.
Mm.
But he's also evolved to be like very generous, loving, caring, and like he's physically affectionate with his friends, even his male friends, and he's become really good at holding space for like complicated emotions, even his own and like other people's. He's gotten really good at crying at movies. He didn't used to do it so much, but like now he's like very openly crying and like um what else? Yeah, he's caring. He's just like he's the kind of friend that he'll be the one to call you and check on you to see if you're okay. Or like at times like his friend has been sick, he'll make a pot of chicken soup and like bring it to your house. It's so like it's a really nice balance of like masculine feminine traits I see in Gil. He's got his own things to like that he wants to work on, I guess, but of all the men I know, I think he's a really good example of that.
Nice.
And he's now single, and I think he should clip that up as like his little like, like this is how fucking great I am because I want to date him now. I want to date him. That's,
Wait, hang on there.
that was such a
Stand
lovely,
back, stand back.
honest. Sorry, no, I'm joking, but
I'm
that was
kidding.
such a lovely and heartfelt, yeah, reflection, yeah, on.
Yeah, he
He
can put
sounded
that
like
as
just
like one of his hinge prompts.
yeah, yeah. It felt like yeah. You're also painting this picture of a guy who'd like he'd build the fire and fight off the bear in the woods.
Yeah.
Like yeah, yeah.
The variety in the answers and the unexpectedness of some of those answers really just show that masculinity means nothing.
We've done it. We've deconstructed gender roles.
Yay!
Yay!
We've done
Congrats, everyone.
it.
Woo!
Completed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well then, shall we wrap up? Okay. I feel like that was we covered a lot of different
Oh,
subtopics there, which are really fascinating. We probably could have gone on and on. But I guess I'll wrap up by saying thank you to Graham for joining and sharing your experience and your perspective. Um, I really value your not only your friendship, but your perspective on a lot of things. And in a way, I'm very proud of you. Hope that doesn't come across condescending, but like
no.
I'm proud of the person you are. I think you're doing very cool things and you're being very true to yourself, and it's nice to see.
Thanks. Thanks,
I've
Tanya.
always been impressed
You're
by
welcome.
you. Yeah.
It was honestly so lovely to chat to you both, it's been nice. I feel like no matter where your podcast goes, I think you maybe mentioned this, Tanya, but just having like almost like video essays of you two chatting and then you two chatting with friends and
Yeah,
having that as a log is like, yeah, it's a really cool thing.
so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's wrap up. Give us a like, give us a review or comment, or yeah, if you're on Spotify, you can give us a 5-star review. That'd be nice. Thanks. Or share with your friends, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Graham, again.
So nice talking to you, Graham.
Yeah, lovely talking to you both.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.